Hey everyone, this is Collapse and Protect, and this is Palmetto State Armory's PA10. So I've been looking to build an AR-10 chambered in .308 for a while now, with the ultimate goal of turning this thing into a civilian DMR. So I reached out to Palmetto State Armory and they sent one out to me. This is the most affordable AR-10 in PSA's lineup, and we're going to see just how accurate and reliable this thing is. If it ends up being a good shooter, then we're going to finish building it out as a budget DMR. As usual, I set up timestamps for you guys, so if you want to jump around to different parts of the video, you can. First, we're going to go over the specs, then we're going to sight it in at 100 yards. We'll see what type of ammo it likes to eat, and our final test will be a string of long-range shots. The specs. This is the third generation of PA10 and it's got a 20-inch barrel. It's got an adjustable gas block and that's going to come in handy when we suppress it, and it's got a 15-inch M-LOK handguard. This is about the most basic iteration of this rifle that Palmetto State Armory offers, and it comes in at $729. For our scope, we paired it with a Vortex Strike Eagle, specifically the EBR-4, with a magnification between 4 and 24 times, and arguably the clearest glass in this price segment. We're definitely not going to have an issue seeing our target. This one has a 50mm objective lens, coming in at right around 370. This is the perfect scope to mount on our budget build. Now let's go ahead and zero this thing. We're going to be using some Winchester white box, and I consider white box to be some of the crappiest, most inaccurate ammo you can get your hands on, but it's cheap and we just need to send some rounds through this barrel. This stuff is 147 grains, and between the wind that's gusting between 5 and 13 miles per hour today, and the fact that white box is known for being inaccurate and unreliable, I don't think we're going to get very good groups out of these. But as far as reliability went, our first string of shots went off without a hitch, no jams, malfunctions of any kind. And looking through the scope, we can see that the rounds found their way to the left side of the target, and they're kind of all over the place, but that's okay because we're still seasoning that barrel, putting rounds through it. But with a higher round count, that group is hopefully going to shrink. So let's see if we can get this thing dialed in. After sending about 30 rounds through the rifle, the group started to come together, and at 100 yards, we got something that was kind of acceptable for a machine gun. But again, this Winchester white box is crap. So let's just send it and see what type of group we can get out of it.
All right, so this is going to be our 5-shot group with this Winchester white box. This stuff has been really inaccurate so far, but I think we've got it about as close as we can get it. Here's our 5-shot group with the Winchester white box. Keep in mind, this is some of the cheapest, crappiest ammo you can pick up at a big box store, and that gave us about a 2-inch grouping. Now we're going to move on to this Federal Gold Medal Sierra Match King. It's 168 grains, and at least going by the packaging, it looks like a little bit higher quality than the white box. Now this is the Sierra Match King, and this was way more accurate and responsive. The 2 shots on the right were absolutely flyers, and they were definitely my fault. When the shot broke and I got that last sight picture, I knew that they were going to be to the right. This grouping in the middle of 3 shots is the one that we're going to count, and that's going to be our 1.5-inch group. And the wind out here today is gusting between 3 and 12 miles per hour, so any grouping that gets under 3 inches is pretty decent. And lastly, we're going to try this Federal American Eagle 150 grain. And here's our American Eagle. That group opened up a little bit, but it's not terrible.
Now this bottom one is a flyer, but it looks to be about a 2-inch grouping. Well, after seeing those results, it looks like the Federal Sierra Match King is the most accurate. Imagine that. Who would have thought using decent quality ammo will produce a good group?
Here we are at our final test. This is a 330-yard shot. The wind has settled down quite a bit, so it shouldn't be too difficult to make.
And no, 330 yards isn't an obscenely long distance or anything, but here in Ohio, where we have hills all over the place that'll obstruct your vision past 75 to 100 yards, a 300-yard shot like this is likely the furthest shot you'll ever take. The ability to replicate that shot and drop multiple rounds on target quickly is far more important than making some 700-yard shot with this thing.
Now, the winner of the accuracy test was this Federal Gold Medal Sierra Match King. So we're going to be using these things to hit that target out there. 330-yard shot. Dude, that's too easy. Too easy. This Sierra Match King, that's the key to this rifle.
and hit after hit just kept coming. Our steel target doesn't even replicate a full-size man. This thing is 2/3 the size of a regular human, and all I had to do is set my crosshairs on it and pull the trigger.
There you have it. The Palmetto State Armory Generation 3 of their AR-10 line is plenty accurate and plenty reliable with zero malfunctions. We can ring a steel target at 330 yards, and this thing looks pretty sexy to boot. Now we're going to take this thing and upgrade it, customize it so it can be the best DMR that it can be.
So stay tuned for the upgrades. Thanks again to Palmetto State Armory for sending this thing out to me. This has been Collapse and Protect. Have fun and be safe.